Hi, my name is Ruben Montoya. I'm Daniela's Montoya's father. I'm from Jaraldo Progreso, Guanajuato. It's the city, little tiny city that I was born uh, actually 55 years ago. So now you know my age. Uh, I've been living in the United States for the last 30, let me remember, 32, 34 years. And the this interview is based on the history of my family, which
So, what is the latest generation you remember from our family history?
okay, my grandparents, which will be your great grandparents, which are I want to talk about my father's side of the family that I is the one that I remember more because they kind of live longer. While my mom's side, luckily I don't remember them almost because they died when I was very little. Uh, so on my father's side, sorry, uh, I can tell you that we grew up once again in Jaraldo Progreso, Guanajuato. It's a really small town. My grandfather uh, used to own way too much land that they used to live out of that practically, planting rice, corn, whatever. It was seasonal, so it was they were planting all the time. They didn't plant. They have a lot of people that work for them to do the work, and they just make the money out of it. Which my father did the same thing when he started his family, which was my older brother. His name is Florentino Montoya Ruiz. Then I have a sister that is Guadalupe Montoya Ruiz, and actually myself, the third in the family, Ruben Montoya Ruiz, which I changed when I immigrated to the United States. Now I'm Ruben Montoya only. And I have a little sister that is younger by 10 years than me, Alejandra Montoya Ruiz. So this we grew up, we were born in this little town, which is Jaral del Progreso, Guanajuato. We were very happy over there because my father used to be a very wealthy guy in that little town, so it was nice to see that we have everything. Unluckily, something happened when I was about 4 years old. Flooding came through that little town out of, long time of rain that destroyed practically all the things that they used to do, which was working with the land. And actually, the house that I had, that we where we used to live in that little town, it has a mark from the water that it came up to probably 7 feet. That is marked on the wall. We have to move up and sleep probably on the roof that night because water was coming out crazy. And anyway, we have a real bad time through that raining season.
Do you remember what year that was?
Yeah, I should. It was on 1967, 66, 67.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I was born in 62. I was 4 years. It should be 1966. Which after that problem with all this water came through the little town, he forced my dad and my mom to move, practically looking for something else to do. And then we moved to Mexico City, which is a huge town that we didn't know that you get a lot of bullying because you talk different than anybody else. You have the accent. It's like talking about Texas and Los Angeles, kind of. So we moved into Mexico City without my parents knowing nothing about the city. My mom used to live in that city when she was younger, which I didn't know till, you know, conversations that we have when I was getting older. But anyway, we moved to Mexico City. We did all of school in Mexico City, starting for me on, first grade, or I went 1 year to kindergarten and then first grade. And from that, I went all the way to UNAM, that they call, which is university in Mexico City. It's very famous around the world. Probably whoever is listening to this may know it. UNAM, that name is to Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico. You should know a lot of doctors around USA from that school. But anyway, I studied as a civil engineer in the school. I did my 4 years. I didn't did my postgrad or my 6 years. I just went through. So I don't have a license to be an engineer, but on my heart, I'm an engineer. Which he put me on this country in USA, sent me to through a scholarship. I received a scholarship to come and did some study on USC, which it wasn't exactly study, but the parents that we exchanging sent us some to Mexico and some to here.
So you guys did a foreign exchange program.
Exactly. Put me on. I didn't really took classes in USC. It was more than anything how USC was. Oh shoot! It's kind of get to know how the classes in USC moves around compared to what you have in Mexico practically. Get to know teachers and students.
The different
and,
lifestyle.
Right, the different lifestyle between what we have in Mexico and what they offer here.
And what did you see from that difference? Like, what's the difference from it?
It's a lot of difference because in school back in Mexico, even let's talk about the university, there is no place to live in the university. You go take your classes and go back home all the time, no matter where you live. Far as you can travel, you have to do it because there is no rooms in the actual university. Even is huge. No housing in that school, which is nice to be in USC because I live there and it was nice, to like you just have to walk to your classes. I used to wake up early, take a shower in the house, and then drive for a few miles to the school. So yeah, it's a big difference. I think it makes kind of easier way of study that you just walk to your classes and come back to your room and then you keep studying and you don't have nothing else to do like at home, like mommy asking you have to do laundry, you have to do it. But anyway, yeah, it's a big difference between schools.
Okay, so before you move into the United States, you said you moved to Mexico City. What's a major event that you and your family will always remember?
I think it was a earthquake that we have in 1985, which forced me to help people. I was on the people that they recruit to be able to be in hospitals that went down to the ground. A lot of people died, so I think that impacted us a lot back in 1985. Knowing that that same year I have to move over because of the scholarship that I had already. I have to travel to USA in December. She was only a few months from the day of the earthquake. It was like, what should I do? Should I go? Should I stay? Because even when I left Mexico, there was a lot of damage still in different areas in Mexico City. But my parents told me, your future is your future, so keep going, and here I am in USA.
What did your parents do when you moved to Mexico City?
Okay, my father started working for Volkswagen. As he used to build the engines for Volkswagen. He worked there for probably, I believe, like 10, 12 years. But while he was working in that company, he started buying taxi cabs. And he came out to have way too many of those. So he retired out of Volkswagen when he was like 45 to 48 years old, and dedicated himself to administrate his own company, which he was like having like, oof, I think it was like 20 taxi cabs that he used to own. Plus, he used to have some semi-trailers and big buses that used to move from city to city, like Greyhound. So his retirement out of Volkswagen, it was very nice for us because then we can travel everywhere with him. So he came out with a huge company that he used to own, which it was nice because once again we became very wealthy in Mexico City. And we see, thanks to that, it allowed me to come over here and do my little exchange or study in USA. And then through that, I can tell you that my life changed because I met a girl that happens on 86, little party that till now we're still together, 31 years after that, having 4 beautiful kids, which one of them is the youngest that is taking this interview.
Do you remember what year my grandparents passed away?
Yes, your grandfather passed on 1993. His name was Florentino Montoya. And your mother passed on 2005. Her name was Margarita Ruiz Montesinos de Montoya,
What?
which sounds kind of long, but in Mexico, as a woman, you're allowed to keep your full name. Plus, they add at the end of your full name that last name of your husband now, which become De and the last name of the husband. That's why it's De Montoya in the case of my mom. So I don't think that, I don't know if there is any other country that kind of use that way. In Mexico, I'm sorry, in United States, when you get married, like my wife is Marta Montoya now. Very simple. In Mexico, it's kind of different. So your last name grows way too big when you get married. But yeah, those were your grandparents, Margarita and Florentino. They already rest in peace.
What were some of the struggles you and my mom had when you moved to the United States?
Wow, I think one of the first ones on my side was the language, because even I took English classes in Mexico. I can tell you from years ago. I remember when I got here, and I used to go to the store, and you become in Mexico. We actually study English from England, which is completely different than American English. One of my first things was like knowing that 20 is not 20, it's 20. It was all the numbers. There is no 40, it's 40. So yeah, studying from the numbers and get to know American people is two worlds. is very different, and that was, I think, more of our struggles that we went through. Plus, as a young couple that we were, we went through a lot of different things, from having jobs that require a lot of hours and a little bit of money. Uh, I can tell you to the point of we used to live with quite a wow, a few guys in a real small tiny apartment to be able to afford the rent, let's say. But uh, my first daughter, who is Stephanie, uh, was born, so I promised my wife that we have to get out of that situation and start being successful in the United States, which, thanks to God, things happen the way that we planned.
At what age did you guys have my older sister, Stephanie?
Back in, she was born in '87, so we were, or actually I was 25 years old, and your mom was 23. Okay, guys, so back when my first daughter was born, I can tell you that times were very, very difficult. Uh, we used to ride the bus, haven't ride it again in years, but back then, oh my God, it was like using the bus. It was the way of transportation that we used to have. We kind of keep going, trying to move out of, or trying to be successful in United States. So we, at this point, I can tell you we did. We did because life changed a lot through the years. For first time, before our second daughter came along, we were able to uh, practically rent our first own apartment. Uh, by that time, I was working as a what they call production manager for the garment industry, which, thanks to that, it changed our life. That gave us the potential to uh, have our first house, which it was back in Ontario, California, where practically my kids grew up. I think they really remember that house. It was a very nice thing that we have. And then we moved over to where we live right now, which is Victorville, California. That as immigrants that we are now American citizens.
What year did you guys become citizens?
In 2012, I think 5 years ago. Yeah, 2012. And finally we've been okay in this country, but I think our lives have changed a lot. Thanks God, we moved to Victorville, California, where we've been living. Practically, Daniela grew up in Victorville. We moved to Victorville when she was 4, which is 14 years ago. Now she's 18. She's studying university, and family keep growing. Can tell you, the good way. Now, my wife and I, we are grandparents. Daniela is an aunt of 2 beautiful little girls. She's Jacqueline, who is 2 years old, and Eva, that is 5 months old. So this is who we are now. Grandparents, parents, and happy family all the way. We love them all. We have shown that family is the most important thing in the world for us. I think school is important, but family, I think, is the one that is going to give you all the time the best education that you can have, because a lot of us blame teachers and people outside of your house because you are who you are. Is not true. You are who you are because you have the roots from your house, from your family, and that give you the experience of taking classes, respecting teachers and people that are around you. So family is the most important thing, I, I believe, for your education.